Jeff? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome.
Okay, turn it up. I can't hear you. Point it to the sound bar.
Is that too much?
No.
I went down.
We need more.
How about now?
Nope.
Better. You're not there yet. Are you pushing it up?
You guys may regret this.
I want to hear it.
How's that?
Better.
I'm a little scared to overdo this, but the whole neighborhood's here, so.
Everybody here?
Turn it to 11.
A little louder.
There's also a volume thing on the microphone.
Okay, we're up to 16. How's it? Try it.
How about 16?
Perfect.
Dale, you can hear this?
Even for us, hard to hear.
I feel successful already. Hey, on behalf of Margie and the whole family, it's just such an honor to have the extended family of White Horse Park and beyond together to share our memories of Steve and our time in fellowship and kind of be together for a while and enjoy each other's company and to share the glorious day that this has turned out to be. If you'll join me in opening prayer. Dear Lord, today we are grateful, solemn, hopeful, feeling the fellowship, feeling the love of family. So appreciative of the day you've given us with the rain nurturing the beautiful countryside that Steve loved so much and walked in and shared fellowship in. But Lord, we also thank you for breaking through those clouds and being here to let us have this fellowship time. And your sun shining through is the hope that we all share for knowing that beyond this life there is so much more. And we are here to celebrate Steve's life and the time we shared and that he is in your hands. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So again, on behalf of Margie and the whole family, it's wonderful for you to be here. We have a very simple afternoon planned. This is not a lot of formality. What we wanted to do, and Margie really asked us all to think about, was we want to have fellowship time and think about the times we shared together with Steve. And if you have a story that you're willing and happy to share, then we're going to give you time to do that. And as we go through this, we will finish the service with an opportunity to help Margie to bury a portion of Steve's ashes right out here by this pine tree where they overlooked every night, enjoying the view and thinking about the beautiful time together and the joys of living up here in Whitehorse, looking at Humphrey's Peak. And then there'll be more time for fellowship and more private discussions. So let's take some time to enjoy each other's company and give a good remembrance to Steve. Okay, so I'd like to hand it over to Jack Creed to start us off with some good memories and a discussion. Jack?
Hi, y'all. Gee, the big group for Steve. I'm gonna read because as I have gotten older, I have become a crybaby. So
A little closer, Jack.
so Dee Dee has volunteered, so if I can't finish, she's gonna finish. So, bear with me. We gather today not only to mourn the sudden loss of Steve A. Farago, Steve to most of us, but to celebrate a life that was deeply lived, generously given, and profoundly loved. Steve was born, how could I find this out here? Was born on February 27th, 1950 in Chicago, Illinois, and passed away on May 31st, 2025. At his beloved cabin in Flagstaff here, he was 75 years old. Though his passing was unexpected, his life was anything but ordinary. From a young age, Steve dreamed of becoming a police officer. That dream was briefly paused when duty called. He enlisted in the Army during the Vietnam War and served in Korea near the DMZ. His courage and commitment to service were evident from the start. After returning home, Steve attended Western Illinois University, where he met the love of his life, Margie. Their connection was instant, and their marriage was in 1975. It marked the beginning of a beautiful journey for them together. They moved to Mesa, Arizona, where Steve served as a police officer and later a lieutenant with the Mesa Police Department. His heart was in traffic, where he proudly served as a motor sergeant and a lieutenant. For Steve, policing wasn't just a job, it was a calling. Steve was a devoted family man. He and Margie raised 3 incredible daughters, Tracy, Laura, and Lizzie, each of whom followed in his footsteps by choosing careers that helped others. Tracy works with cancer patients, Laura is a crisis specialist, and Lizzie is a critical care nurse. Their compassion is a living reflection of Steve's legacy. Steve's 6 grandchildren, I hope this is right, Sullivan, Cannon, Reagan, Addison, Kaylee, and Keelan. Is that right? Mm-hmm. They were the light of his life. He talked about them a lot. This is a little ad-lib. Dee Dee and I lost a grandson. We just had his anniversary on the 27th of July. My son, Jeremy, how do you guys know? Somebody gave him a book, and it's called Imagine Heaven. It's by a guy by the name of John Burke. It's about near-death experiences. It's an amazing book. He now buys those by the case and hands them out to people who are going through grief. I have one here for Margie. So I just want to try to tie this in with that book because it's meant a lot to us. In John Burke's Imagine Heaven, we read stories of people who have had near-death experiences, accounts filled with overwhelming love, peace, and a sense of being truly known. Many describe meeting loved ones, feeling embraced by divine light, and experiencing a life review that highlights the impact of their choices. Steve didn't have a near-death experience, but if he had, I believe it would have been a moment of affirmation. A life review for Steve would show a man who lived with integrity, who protected others, who loved deeply, and who never wavered in his commitment to doing what was right. Burke writes in that book that heaven is not just a place of clouds and harps. It's a place of purpose, beauty, and reunion. I imagine Steve arrived there, greeted by his parents, embraced by peace, and hearing the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And we take comfort in the words of Jesus from John 14, 2 through 6. It says, "In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have not told you to go and prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. And you know the way where I am going." Thomas, the doubting disciple, said to him, "Lord, we do not know where you're going. How can we know the way?" And Jesus said to him, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father but through me." Steve's place was prepared, and now he rests in that eternal home, embraced by the one who is the way, the truth, and the life. Steve's life teaches us that greatness isn't found in fame or fortune. It's found in service, in love, and in quiet strength of a man who showed up every day for his family and his community. As we grieve, let us also remember that it isn't the end. Imagine heaven reminds us that death is not a wall, but a doorway. Steve has stepped through that door into a place more beautiful than we can imagine, a place where love never ends. Let us honor him not only with our tears, but with our lives. Let us live with the same courage, compassion, and integrity that defined his journey. Rest well, Steve. Your legacy lives on in every life that you touch.
Thank you, Jack. A beautiful eulogy. Thank you. And you made it all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Thank you. A few people have asked to speak, but it's not any kind of a barrier, so anybody who would like to say a few words. A little louder, Dick?
Yeah.
Okay. So a few people have asked to speak, but anyone who wants to join in, you're more than welcome. So if you're ready, Lynn, where's Lynn Kolpeck? Lynn, are you ready to say a few words?
Come on up. Please, come on.
I didn't know it was going to be this formal.
This is not that formal. Now it's informal, okay?
I've been around for quite a while, 40 years, and actually 40 years this year we're going to be up here. But I remember meeting Steve, but you know, I'm the kind of person, I don't make friends real easily. It takes me a while to kind of warm up to people and to get to really know them. But once I do know people and I'm their friend, then I'm their friend forever. I have an oldest friend that was back from Chicago, and probably within a year or two, he's going to be my friend for 80 years. And I'm still friends with him. He lives in Texas now, but Steve, Steve was something else. I thought maybe he's not going to be probably too approachable. He was kind of opposite personality from what I am. He was real outgoing. He was gangbusters all the time. He was go, go, go. And I'm the one that was kind of more laid back. And I said, how am I going to get along with a guy like this? But then the more I got to know him, I think I was closer to him than I thought. Well, we're both from Chicago, but I found out ethnically our ancestors came basically from the same part of Europe. And then in Chicago, we lived on opposite sides of the town. I was all the way out west, right on the edge of the western suburbs. He was southeast, and he was right near the border of Indiana where he lived. But I think we kind of came from the same type of, neighborhoods and stuff like that. But the more I got to know him, I said, well, this guy's pretty much down to earth. And a lot of times, you ask him to do something or help you with something, he would. But I try to reciprocate with that too. He says, I need you to help me with the little project at my house. I'm splitting a lot of wood. I need somebody to bring the wood pieces to me to cut up, and we did stuff like that. But I don't know. He was just a great guy, and I just really miss him quite a bit, and I'm going to miss him more as I go along. But that's the way of things. As you get older, you start missing a lot more people. So many of my friends are gone now, over the years, and it doesn't get any easier. But I just my heart goes out, and we love Margie here, and I think about stuff, and I'm thinking about. Steve came to me with a favor one time. He says, we got company, and we're going to be going out all day. He said, will you come and let Heidi out? I said, no. You bring Heidi to my house. We're going to watch Heidi at our house. And so we did, and we did that several times. And I think we even had Heidi overnight as they had to go out of town or go back to town or something. I can't remember, but they've just been so great. And actually, everybody, all the people, all these guys are my brothers here, and all you women are sisters to me. It's just been fantastic. I don't know where you can go anywhere else and have this kind of relationship. You go into a neighborhood, you hardly know who your neighbors are. But here it's a whole different thing. We're just really, really tight knit together, and I can't say anymore. It's too hard.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, a lot of people have been talking since Steve passed in May. And a lot of these stories don't always get back to Margie and the family. So part of what we want to do is tell some of the stories that she hasn't really gotten to hear, even though we're all talking about it. We're all toasting and having get-togethers, because some of the fellowship that Steve was a champion of continues. And we're going to talk about some of those, but one of those fellowships is the Fellowship of the Wings. Right? So for those that I think everybody knows, but there's always been a Thursday night gathering at Wings. And there's been some people who've rebelled and have said that the wings are too expensive, or the food's not as good as it should be, or whatever. But it didn't matter. We tried some things, but we keep getting together. So even after Steve's passing, we continue to get together and have that fellowship. So that's just one of the examples of the way that Steve championed fellowship in the community. And we've all reflected that this is a really what we think of as a beautiful community to live in, that shares the troubles and shares the joys and has fun together, and can really kind of poke at each other every once in a while when we need to, because a lot of us are really good at that. Right, Joe? Okay. All right, and one of our folks, Joe, are you going to say something?
Yeah, I got 3 words.
I better back up.
All right. Can you hear me back there?
Yes.
Yay! All right. This is a celebration for Steve. There's no two ways about it. But I got to tell you, he was my buddy. And I love him. I can't do it. Never mind.
That's only one word.
Oh, okay. Screwed up. All right.
Take a breath.
Yeah. So, few things. You can't use Margie's telephone system up here. You got to text, okay? So, back in the day when we were younger, some of you people don't understand this, but Steve would text me early in the morning, and he'd say, biscuits and gravy. And that was all. 7 o'clock in the morning, he'd come up with his trailer, full of his water trailer, I should say, pick me up, we go into town, biscuits and gravy. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah, what Rhonda's?
Mike and Ronkin.
Okay.
Great biscuits, great gravy. So anyway, our second trip on that would be Home Depot. Now, you people don't understand about Steve and I and Home Depot. I originally sent the manager to Home Depot to Hawaii because of all the stuff I spent. My wife says I spent twice as much as I should have. Steve, on the QT, spent 3 times that amount and sent him twice. True story. I took Steve hunting years ago, back when I was young. We were young. Took him up to those hills back up in there, and we were archery hunting. And I was told this is illegal, but Steve was a police officer and he always carried a gun with him. So we were hunting, archery, he had a gun with him. Guess what comes by? Anybody? 3 bears. All right? Mama bear and 2 cubs. And Steve's in front of me by right where Dick is. He turns to me and goes, "Joe, beer!" I'm going, "Don't move." And don't shoot it. So anyway, the night rolls on. We didn't find any animals, which was fine. Margie, Steve's a coward. It got dark, he got scared. He went down the mountain without me. Luckily, he found his way back to the ATV. Honest to God, truth. It's a true story. It's very funny. I used to love sitting with Steve on this deck, looking at that mountain. 1 beer. That was it. We were good. Never talked, except when Margie was there. But I'm going to miss him. And I admire him for the fact that the man had 4 women in his house. And that means 4 curling irons. And that means your generator runs up here. And Margie, he would cry. But, slight secret, I guess, I don't know. But that's all I got, folks. He was a great guy, Margie. Kids, he loved you all.
Thank you, Joe. We have another member who would like to come up and speak from the whole other end, way down across the meadow. Well, maybe just across the meadow. Gary?
Yeah. Thank you, Brent. I'm going to try to do this without the microphone. I speak real loud as it is. Can everybody hear me without the microphone? Dick, can you hear him? Yes. Okay. Claire, I'm suddenly real nervous right now. So, let's see how we're going to start this. My name.
We love you, Gary.
Thank you.
We're your friends.
I'm ready to go. My name is Gary Thompson, and this is my lovely wife, Claire Thompson.
Hi, Claire.
She's the one that had her hands in her on her head, praying that I don't mess this thing up. We've been around this neighborhood for 39 years, and so we live right up the meadow here on the right-hand side. I've got a story today about Steve and I working together, and so it's just a regular story, what happened that day a few years ago, and I'd like to share that with you. This story of mine will feature 2 other neighbors that live in the area. That would be Jeff Canton and Hans Bueller. Okay, so Jeff, we'll hear a bit more about Jeff and Hans a little bit later, okay? But I'll start off with the story with a question. What was Steve's favorite thing to do at Whitehorse Park? The absolute favorite thing that he loved to do here.
Rake pine needles.
Paul Mullins.
Paul Mullins.
That was a good response, but these folks right here had it right. He loved to pull Mullen along Friedline Drive, and that's what this story is about. Okay? This story will also, not only the story will feature Jeff and Hans, it will also reveal if they are thick-skinned or thin-skinned. If they are thin-skinned, I'm toast. let the story begin. This takes place several years ago, and we were at Steve's second best place to be, and that's at Wings. Okay? And here he is. We're all at the table. All the guys are around, and Steve asked the group, interested in pulling mullet this Saturday. Everybody said, sure, we can do that. Sure, let's do that. What time? 9 o'clock Saturday. So 9 o'clock Saturday, I kissed my wife goodbye for the day, and I started heading down here. And I immediately noticed nobody else was in sight. I did see Steve and his green buggy. Everybody knows the green buggy. I walked all the way down here, still didn't see anybody. I approached Steve and I said, Steve, okay, I'm ready to go. Let's get going here. Are they going to show up? Oh yeah, sure, they'll show up. Nope, not to worry. They will show up. Okay, fast forward a year later. We are at Wings again. Steve again announced, hey, look, I want to pull some weeds, some mullein. Would you guys be interested? Sure. We'd love to help out. A lot of what time? 9 o'clock Saturday. Okay, sure enough. I come down again. Absolutely nobody in sight. True story, like Joe always says. True story. Nobody in sight. I get up to him, and he said, look, let's just get started. Let me explain how we pulled mullein, the two of us. He was an expert at this. So we start out right over here, heading that way, start pulling mullein. We would pull mullein until we get a nice pile of it. Then eventually that pile would end up in the back of his green buggy. And as you've seen 1,000 times, that green buggy would take off to the slash pile. And his job was to empty the green buggy into the slash pile, which left me here alone on Freedline Drive, pulling mullein. Many times I looked around. I'm the only one on Freedline Drive. But we needed Steve. We needed Steve to do this. Without him doing this, this would not have worked. So he would come back each and every time. Hey, Gary, how's it going? Oh, good job. Always encouraging me. So he'd get out of his green buggy, and we would go up the road, and we would work ourselves up the road, as you've seen many times. We eventually get to my property. And as an aside, off script here a little bit, I never have mullein on my property. Hint, hint. So we keep on going, and we follow this routine. He would pick up, haul to the slash pile, come back, repeat over and over and over again. We were together doing this for several hours that day. At any rate, I look up past my place and I see, oh boy, this looks like this is going to be interesting. Looks like we got some work up here. So we get up past my place, and it's raining now. It's cold and it's raining. I'm miserable. Steve isn't miserable. He seems to enjoy this. And so we suddenly find ourselves surrounded by a sea of tall mullein. Literally that thick. A sea of tall mullein. We happen to be standing in front of Jeff Canton's house. All of a sudden, we hear a vehicle come up. We turn around. There's Hans. Hans is in his vehicle. Not sure why he's in a vehicle, but he's in a vehicle. He pulls up and stops. He rolls down his window. He congratulates us on what we're doing. Great job. Good job. And then we exchange pleasantries. He then suddenly says, have a good day, guys. I'm going to town. Have a good day. I'm going to town. Steve, did you hear that? He looked at me straight in the eye and he said, quit your bitching and start pulling. Jeff. At any rate, we eventually get to the end of the road. This is a true story, guys, really. We eventually get to the end of a Freedline, and Steve then asked, hey, you want to ride back to your house? I said, well, sure. I said, oh, that would be nice. He then looked at me and he said, do you need to wear a seat belt? I said, a seatbelt? I don't need a seatbelt. I'm a big boy. He asked if I wanted a seatbelt. So I get in there, I sit down, I say, thank you, Steve, I'll be okay. He takes off at a snail's pace. And he looks over to me, and he says, I don't want you to fall out. Fall out? I'm not going to fall out. So we eventually get to my place, and he stops, and this is Steve. He's done this to me 1,000 times. He looks at me, and he thanked me. But the way he thanked me was so sincere. I took it as a very sincere thank you, and he appreciated me helping him. So I get out, he takes off. Down the road he goes. Folks, this is not a story about pulling Mullen. This is a story about a man's character, Steve's character, and the way he operates and the way he gets along with people. He even put up with me and my nonsense, and I'm a Democrat. Finally, he takes off out of sight. Rest in peace, Steve. Keep an eye out on Margie. And if you can possibly help us out, keep White Horse Park fire free. Folks, that's my story, and I'll stick to it.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
And it's really true. Really true. Steve, I asked Steve once, I said, why do you hate the Mullins? And because I couldn't understand it. There's lots of weeds around, or flowers.
I think Margie gave him a quarter for every.
Margie did it? So the answer perplexed me. He said, the Mullins are not indigenous to this area. Neither are we.
I think it was a week of pulling Mullins is like one good Sunday night. I think that's what it was. Okay, first of all, Tusa, I love him. Shit is 4 words, not 3.
Just a truck driver. What do I know?
Thompson, your story's a little inaccurate. First and foremost, we go to Wings. When Steve would say, "Hey, who wants to pull Mullins on this date?" we would not agree to it until he had his 3rd kill of it. So we were smart enough where we think he would remember. He was the dumb one that would actually show up. And you were an educator? You were a drama teacher, weren't you? So anyways, Margie, Steve is a great man, raised a great family. His commitment to his friends, his family, his faith. I've told you stories about how he helped me with trees, and the first people that we met when we came up here, believe it or not, I used to be the youngest person up here. Not anymore. The first person we met up here when we were buying that house were these 2 creepy guys in camo with full beards, and that'd be Creed and Dale. They pulled up in their little side-by-side. They knew where we lived, how much we paid for the house. They knew my name. They knew Christy's name. It was creepy. Yeah. So that's like one person, because they were like 2 little girls. Second, the Tusas. And Joe and Sandra welcomed us awesomely into this community. And then it was you and Steve. And Christy and I are so appreciative for all the times, all the memories we had in this yard for goofy games, on this patio, watching the sunset, not drinking anything because Steve was in trouble. And Jack and I just sat there like this.
Yeah. We weren't.
All the wing stories, going shooting at the Cinder Pit, cleaning up Friedline. I mean, he just loved this community. He treated us all with respect, supported all of us. So thank you for sharing him. I was told I'm not supposed to tell this story, but I'm going to tell it. So Wings is always an interesting one because it was always Steve, kilt lifter. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear anything. And it was a few years ago, I think Brent was so frustrated. He's like, well, isn't that hearing aid connected to your... It's like, isn't that hearing aid connected to your phone? He's like, I don't know. So Brent looks at his phone, and he didn't even have the app connected to his hearing aid. So within literally 30 seconds, I think Brent realized this is how it works, and got his hearing aids working. So we had lots of great stories at Wings. We had lots of great stories in Jack's barn. There was one time in particular where Jack and I were in the barn with Steve, and we may have consumed a few adult beverages while Jack was showing us all his cool guns. And we're sitting there having whiskeys, and Steve looks at us, he's sitting down, and he goes, I gotta pee. And Jack and I both look at him like, okay. Are you gonna pee your pants? Are you gonna get up, or what are you gonna do? And he's just sitting there. So then he gets up, and he stands there, and we're like, are you gonna pee in the barn? Like, go outside. Meanwhile, Dee Dee has a Bible study group, or a bunch of ladies in the house. So Steve kind of goes like this, outside, and Jack and I look at each other like, what is he gonna do? And I walk outside, and I watch him just tumble ass over elbows into the cinders. So we get him up, we get him situated, everything's fine. The next night, we're supposed to go to Joe's because Sandra's out of town. So we were going upstairs to the midget bar, and I show up. Joe's at the house. Jack pulls up. I'm like, where's Steve? He's like, he's grounded. So we all went to the bar upstairs at Joe's, and the next night was Wings. Steve was still grounded. So Jack and I came by after Wings, and he's like, let's have a drink with Steve and Margie, because he couldn't go to Wings. So we come over here, we sit right down here, and we're watching the sunset, and I'm thinking, where's the beer? And we just sat there. But it was wonderful. So, silly story, but we love Steve. Everybody loves Steve. We love you, Margie. You are part of this. You're part of this great family as well. So everything we talk about Steve, we know that you're the better half of it. So thank you again for sharing him and sharing your home and sharing your family. So Howard Anderson said he wanted to speak next.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're a pain in the ass.
But he's one of your extended family pains in the ass. It makes all the difference.
We have all kinds.
I can't see him, he's down here.
So we have one of our members who used to live here and came all the way from Oregon and would like to say a few words tonight.
Very few.
Very few. More than 3 or less than 1,000?
Well, I won't be like Joe. Let's put it that way.
Won't be like Jeff. There's one. Dale Henson.
Here comes the radio voice.
Yeah, not anymore.
Not anymore.
First of all, it's a privilege to come back here and
See what you started?
Take a breath.
to come back here and see all of these great friends. I can reflect back on my time here, and this is the best part of my life. The people that are here are genuine. There's always someone to lend a hand for about anything you're doing, even Joe. Anyway, I didn't know Steve as a police officer. And I kind of, I want to know who I'm going to be associated with. So I just kept observing Steve and the things that he did. He started building this house the same time I started building my house. And I watched the progression, and I was put to shame. If you'll look here, this is a demonstration of the kind of man that Steve was. You don't see any screws in this decking.
My choice.
Thank you, Margie. Yes, Steve made me aware of that, yes.
Underneath.
And if you, with Margie's permission, if you take a pocket knife and scrape through the layers of shellac here, you would probably count 8 or 9 layers of shellac.
You've been
your
gone a
own
while.
house.
Yeah, you've been gone a while.
Okay, well, I probably missed some of them, yeah. One of the memories that I have about Steve, and I still think about it and chuckle a little bit. I was at home doing whatever it was, I don't know. Anyway, that's when the cell service got a little bit better, and Steve calls me, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, nothing, what's up? He said, can you come down here? I said, yeah, is everything okay? And he said, well, no. I said, all right, I'll be right there. So I got down here, and Steve is up in the lift while he's shellacking, and the motor died. And he said, I can't get it started, and I can't get down. See what you can do. So after a little while, we figured it out, and we got it running again and got him back down on the ground. But there was always something going on. I had a couple of file cabinets full of plumbing supplies and some other stuff up there, and Steve and I had an agreement, you know, you don't ever go to town unless you've checked those file cabinets up there to see if what you needed was there instead of going all the way to town. So, Steve, you're a great friend, and you will be missed terribly.
Thank you, Dale. Thanks for coming all this way. It really means a lot. It's great to see you. So now you've heard about the Fellowship of the Wings. You've heard about the arch enemy, the Mullins weeds. And you just heard about the Fellowship of the Lift and other things. There's a lot more fellowships, but the lift was a practical matter, right, Margie? Because Margie saw
All
it.
right, let me tell you.
Margie's going to tell.
Thank you all for making this fun. I appreciate it, all these great memories. But okay, my lift story. I believe Steve was shellacking this area, and he brought the lift in through Dick's gate right here, and he kind of wedged it right here, but you know, the boom could go, what, 40 feet? I don't
32.
Apparently 32. Okay. So he got himself real close to the deck and did his thing up there, and then he was done, and it was time to take the lift back to his little home in the back. And I was here, and I don't know how to explain this. It was crazy. He put it in reverse, and it would kind of move back to a certain area, and he turned the wheel thing, whatever it was called, and he was kind of getting himself wedged between these trees. So he calls me out, and okay, I'll stand here and make sure you don't drive into the deck because you're right at the corner. And so I'm kind of, you know, what are the things, you know, stop and come and whatever all those hand signals are that I still don't know. I still can't back up a trailer, just so you know, because I can't figure out those hand signals. Anyway, so, you know, I'm kind of giving him a hand signal, blah, 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 come over here, and I get him within an inch of the deck, inch of a tree, totally stopped. You can't move anyway whatsoever. So it's like, Dick, can you come over? He's on his deck, you know, probably watching the whole thing. And so I call Dick, you know, Dick, come on over. And so between Steve and Dick, hand signals, everything, the lift goes out perfectly down Dick's driveway and puts it to bed way over there. So Dick, thank you very much for that. I was a panicked lady at that point in time, but you guys know what you're doing when it comes to big equipment stuff. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Well said, Margie. But you know, the lift was much more than a Farago family tool, because Steve was happy to take that lift up and down Free Line Drive to do whatever somebody needed. How many of you have had Steve show up with a lift to help you do something? Right? Look around. That's the fellowship of the lift. And it's another way that Steve built community, by selflessly giving of himself, never asked for anything. He would appreciate if you'd put some gas in it for the use of it. But that was truly it, right? That was about all there was to it. But he was truly caring about helping other people. And so the fellowship of the lift was a real thing as well. Thank
By
you,
the
Margie.
way, I welded up and fixed his basket on that lift many, many times. Not to say he wasn't an expert driver, but as Margie was saying, either that or he was trying to push trees down, I'm not sure.
He was enthusiastic.
Yes.
So next up, I think Christy would like to say a few words. All right? Christy?
Thank you. I feel really like the youth of the neighborhood. And it's a delight to hear the depth of history and stories of Steve. We moved here in 2019, so we're only 6 years in now. But it feels like a lifetime already, and I've been blessed to have many beautiful communities and lives I've lived. When we came here, Pia was about 3 years old, and our previous home in Mountain Air, south of town, she used to call sweet home. But now that's such a blip and faint memory, I believe, for her, and Whitehorse Park truly is her home where she's growing up. And the Mullen story that Gary shared, it's really fun for me. You know, I'm a botanist and arborist, so I've spent many days also dealing with invasive weeds. And I remember one of our first years joining the Free Line Drive cleanup. Not just Steve, but Margie too. And truly the whole neighborhood. I was so happy that these people, just like me, had a vengeance and a hate for Mullen. And I was like, wow, we get to kill Mullen. But I do know, like, Margie is definitely the organizer, kind of. Another impression I got when we were new here, and we're in the throes of very busy working lives, running businesses, but trying to keep pace with all the action happening in Whitehorse Park. My impression was, okay, Steve and Margie, it was 4th of July. The Tusas kindly left a sweet little note, old-fashioned style, inviting us to their potluck for 4th of July. And we were fresh. We were still moving in. I think when we first came here, it was really Ryan who fell in love with this area, get out of town. Both of us have always appreciated the remote sides of the world and just the refuge of the mountain and nature. You know, that's church for us. But it's been such a gift to not just feel like we're escaping to this beautiful place, but it was a bonus to realize, oh, we have this amazing neighborhood, which that was not even part of the deal. It was just a bonus. So we thought, okay, let's go meet the neighbors. So we go to Tusas. Pia's little. Everyone thinks she's cute, of course. And meeting everyone was very comforting for me, just to know, like, wow, we're really not alone. We have this great community. And then my impression of Margie and Steve right out of the gates is like, these are the guys who, it's like, this is the mayor's house. Yeah, just staying organized, really the folks who rally to get things done together and come up with a plan. Instead of we don't go to wing night wherever beers, it's like, oh yeah, let's go pull Mullen tomorrow. If Margie's in charge, she would have had people show up. Because she would have a plan, a time, and RSVPs. And there would be snacks and drinks and a coordinated lunch afterwards to bait everybody to join. So I really appreciate the legacy Steve has left, the service. And I remember that cleanup day, Margie trying to pull him along when everyone else was ready to advance down the road. Steve's still way back there, beyond the easement, just pulling Mullen and people's properties. So I hung back with him because I'm like, oh, there's still a whole forest of Mullen to remove. But we happily pull it from our yard too. And I will say recently I was reflecting on Steve as I was on my way home, driving down Friedline, and it's having a great impact. There's much less Mullen than there used to be. So good job, everybody. So I feel like, too, another thing I remember about Steve is the morning walk. And it really, for me, was a sense of assurance that today's going to go well. You'd see him out there with Heidi doing the loop, and often with good friends. So as we're preparing for work in the morning, just this, it reminds me of some of my time spent in other small places, like at Phantom Ranch in Grand Canyon. Every morning by 5 a.m., you see the wranglers and the mules saddle up, headed out of the canyon. A couple hours later, a different batch of mules headed down to support all the inner canyon operations. And Steve, for me, was so similar to that, and which embodies service and just passion and like a genuine care that somebody's taking care of this place and all the people that are special to the place. It's like coming home. And this year, when I noticed everybody returning to the neighborhood, because we go through the winter, which that in itself is a really special community, much smaller. And then we kind of feel like, oh, it comes alive in the spring when the rest return. I remember having a sense of fear and just feeling not that sense of comfort. Because I was like, where's Steve? I didn't see him and Heidi out on the walk. So that was definitely an immediate just knowing like something's different this year. And just this mourning of the landscape feels parallel of like the lack of rain and the desperation in the land. And we've been seeing the bears, hungry and thirsty. So today's rain, for me, I was like, it was just kind of a relief. Feeling like, I feel like Steve has something to do with this. Like a real good monsoon rain that in the long term, everything will be okay and we continue to live kind of with the legacy that he taught and lived every day. I don't have the years that you guys do, but I remember one day just in a crazy panic of being overwhelmed and over-obligated, worrying I left water running in our greenhouse. I'm like, who do I know? And at that point, I didn't know many people, but I knew Steve. So I reached out and said, do you mind on your morning walk, which was such a reliable routine, when you go by our place, could you check and make sure I didn't leave that water running? Because I felt like, oh, Ryan's going to be really pissed if I let the water run all day and voided the well. So Steve, of course, he didn't make me feel guilty for asking. He says, no problem, I'll go right by there. He reassured me, oh yeah, everything's off, it's fine. So just when the rest of life, which might be petty, feels so intense, he was just happy to step in and help and make the time. Because he was just steady, no drama. And I just remember that chuckle, you know, when he was sharing stories with folks, he'd be like, mm-hmm, and kind of smile off to the side a little bit, where you could know he understood what you were saying, but he didn't need to elaborate either. There was just kind of an understanding of knowing. And yeah, I was thinking last week as we were all cleaning up the road, there was a missing link, you know. Normally he and Margie, they'd be there, but they really were through all of us. So thanks everybody for continuing the cycle.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank you. I just want everybody to know that Christy has taken over the Adopt the Highway program.
Oh,
so we appreciate her for that.
Thank you, Christy.
When are we doing it?
It was 2 weeks ago.
Perfect.
My story is very in theme.
Okay. You get an email. Thank you.
All right, next up, Ariel.
Hello. So my story of Steve is very in line with the morning walks and time with the dogs. I moved here in 2017, I think, with John, that cutie over there. Yeah. So I decided in 2020 to get a puppy. Big decision. And my loving husband was on board with that. And I decided one day to take my dog camping in a tent by myself because I could do it. And I could do it with my dog. And so I wasn't brave enough to go someplace new. So I did camp literally right on Steve's path, basically. And that night he walks by and he sees me in my car, in my tent, in my little camping setup, and he's like, "You gonna camp out here?" And he gives me that side smile, and I said, "Yes." And he says, "Do you have what you need?" And I said, "Yes." I think. I don't know. And so we have a back and forth conversation, and I realize, oh, this guy is worried about me. He cares. He wants me to be safe. He wants my dog to be safe. And his dog and my dog are playing. How cute! Because the size difference, I had I think Howie was 20 pounds at the time. I don't know if you met Heidi. Heidi was way more than 20 pounds. And so that was, oh my goodness, super special as somebody who believes it does take a village to have a human be a human and have more people look out for them. So having Steve look out for me in that moment, I was insanely grateful for. And then, like clockwork, I knew I could rely on Steve in the morning to look out for me and make sure that I was still there in the morning. So Steve walks by. He sees me smiling outside my tent and goes, "How did it go?" with this sad little smile. And I said, "It went great." And he said, "Well done," and then smiled and just took off with his dog. And again, that piece of White Horse Park community building is so special. It takes a village, and being a part of this community for the last 7 years, math, has been an absolute honor. And it's been hard not seeing Steve and Heidi walking by, but I know that there's space for other people to walk by with their cute little doggies. So thank you.
Thank you so much. He
So
loved.
you've heard a lot about the fellowship of people walking around in Whitehorse together.
Does anybody need a drink? We can take a little 5-minute break. Okay, 5-minute break, please.
Hi. My name's Cecily, and I live in the house over there, part-time kind of, and it's messy with me. Sorry.
Okay, take your time.
So I have a couple memories of Mr. Steve. One of them was where he would walk, as what people said, and me and my mom would join him with, I think, our dog Moose, which was our old corgi. And I remember it being really fun, and I would always listen to the adults talk, and I always like to hear about the stories that they would say about but yeah, so that kind of became, I guess, a routine where whenever we were up, we would go walking, and yeah, it was really nice. And I didn't really know Mr. Steve super personally, but he was definitely really kind, and I could tell that he was a really amazing man. And I had no idea that he was a police officer and he was an Army veteran. That's so cool. And when I heard that at the other funeral, I was really impressed, because I kind of wanted to be a police officer when I'm older, maybe. So that kind of inspired me, and it's just that's really cool. And I don't know, it's sad, because knowing that he'll never be there again to walk with, it's just, I don't know, it's it hurts. But yeah, so I hope that someday we'll be able to walk again. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Love that.
Thank you for those memories. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So we heard a lot about people walking with Steve in Whitehorse. There were a lot of people who came and went and were part of that. And how many of you have taken the walk with Steve in Whitehorse Park? Look around. Amazing, right? And now we're going to hear from another one of the Fellowship of the Walking, Chuck.
Thanks, Brett. Yeah, it's really wonderful to hear everybody's stories about Steve, and how far this community goes back. It's amazing, Now that I'm retired, I'm going to be up here a lot more. So
We've heard that.
I know, but I'm actually retired now.
Speak up.
Can you hear me? All right. Sally and I bought right across the meadow in August of 2014. And quickly, Steve showed up because I needed solar help. I had one, I think it was a 220 watt panel. And as everybody here knows, you cannot run a house on 220 watts. So quickly, Steve pulled his resources. Keith, he got Dale to dig my big hole for the tracker. And, he really set me up. And during that experience, he also taught me what it's like to live at 8,300 feet and how to live off grid and all the idiosyncrasies that it takes to try and, survive up here and thrive up here, right? And shortly after that, everybody's talked about Steve's walking, and most of us have been a part of that. So I started walking with Steve, and at the time, I had my dog, Tucker, and of course, Steve had his beloved Heidi, and we started, and we picked Brent up, and then we picked Brian up, and Brian would always have a bowl of water out for the dogs, and then we'd pick Len up, and we would walk. And, the thing about Steve, he took his walks very seriously, okay, as most of us who walk with him do. He had his phone out, and every time his phone dinged, he would look at it, and we'd either be too slow or we'd have to speed up. And so he pushed it. And the other thing is you couldn't be late, okay? So if I was a little bit late coming out of my house, which is right over there, he would be waiting at the end of the driveway with Heidi, pointing at his watch, okay? So, it became a great community thing, and Rebecca, walked with us, and everybody had our dogs out there from time to time. And shortly after that, I think it was, Tracy, Steve talked Sally and I into doing the cancer walk up Snowball Hill. And, I think everybody here knows it's 7.5 miles, it's pretty straight up. And Steve just took off, right? Because Steve, if he wasn't under a 15-minute pace, he was not happy. And I think we made it up almost 8 miles up Snowball Hill, almost 3,000 feet of climbing, under 15-minute pace. And I remember Sally was dying the whole time.
It was a 13-minute mile.
Yeah, it was. So it was practically running, and so Steve had been a long-time runner, right? He had many he always wears old T-shirts, telling me all about the marathons he ran. Of course, at that time, I was 55 and he was 64, so Steve was 9 years older than me. He had just stopped running and transferred to walking. And then I was still trying to compete, in ultra distance running. And one thing that really, the way it came about is all these walks with Steve, and I'm sure we walked over 1,000 miles, easy. It taught me how to hike at a very fast pace. And when I started doing 100-milers at high elevation, I remember I would come back and I would thank Steve, because he really gave me that ability to do that, and he really taught me. And, even when he had his first heart attack and he had the stents, he slowed down a little bit, but not much. And, the thing about Steve, it was all about consistency. He was always there. You could always count on him. He was generous. He kind of taught me, I'm learning, but I always like to do things for myself, and I have a hard time asking people for help. And Steve really showed me that that's not the right way, that it really is good to reach out for people, to help you. And, I remember one story where he bought probably his fourth RV, and you guys took off for the West, and you visited all these beautiful national parks, and I think you were gone for like 3-4 weeks, something like that. And he came back, and I was all excited on our walk, you know, for him to tell me all about the different places he visited. And he said, you know, Chuck, he said, yeah, there were a lot of beautiful places, but nothing compared to this place here. This was his favorite place. And, you know, when I now primarily walking with Brian, you know, we walk most every days, and I always think of Steve. And, you know, he loved this place so much. This was his favorite place. This was his dream. And it's going to stay alive because of his, you know, his love. It's every time that I walk and I think about Steve. So it's been a wonderful time getting to know him, and I'll miss him a lot.
Thank you, Chuck. Margie, every time I take my dog on a walk now on the loop that Steve and I went on, I think about Steve. And I want you to know that we all are still having these moments.
Okay, and I want everybody to know that even though Heidi passed the day before Steve, we didn't really have a chance to mourn her. I just want to know that she was the best little furry person in our lives that we loved so much. So we didn't get a chance to mourn her, and I feel guilty about that. So I will do that, and it's just, she was the best. Yeah.
Steve had to have somebody to walk with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Thank you, Margie.
Thank you.
All right, next up, I'd like to invite Matt to come up and say a few words. Matt? And if you don't know, Matt has volunteered to put together an oral history of Whitehorse Park. And I think that's wonderful because you're hearing just pieces of everything that's happened here. And Matt's putting that together for the community. So reach out to Matt to be a part of that. Matt?
Thank you, Brent. I'm going to, before I start, just pick up on that little promotion. So, yesterday, 2 days ago, I talked with Jack and Dee Dee about their times at Whitehorse Park coming here, what it was like in the old days in the 70s and what it's like today, what they love about this place, which we've all heard a lot about today. And I'm going to reach out to each and every one of you and ask you to do the same thing. I'm recording these stories that everyone has, and my intent is to put them on a website so they're available to all of us, and then they'll be there for our children and our grandchildren to listen to know what it was like to be a part of this community, which is so special. So if you want to participate, I would love it, and it'll be something that we all can share together, and that future generations can share it as well. So thanks, Brent, for that. So when I was sitting here, I was just thinking, what a glorious day today is. Steve would love this. I mean, this is why he wanted to be here. So I wanted to start out by saying, how y'all doing? That was my best Chicago, Illinois accent, because that's how Steve would always greet me. How you doing? And he always did it with a big smile and this warm look in his eyes. And when he said that, he meant it. He really wanted to know how I was doing. And I'm going to repeat a lot of the same themes. The fellowship of the wings being one of them. I look at Steve as the founder of Thursday Night Wings. Because every Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock, it must have been before he went for his walk, he'd send out a text. Who's interested in wings tomorrow? And then that would start this flurry of activity of all these text messages going back and forth. Who's going to wings? Who's not going to wings? Who can drive? Who's going to ride with whom?
it went on until by Thursday afternoon, there were about 20 to 25 text messages that had gone back and forth because of Steve's one text message who's interested in wings. And that was just for 8 of us to go to Wings, all those text messages, and that still continues to today. And, Steve, he loved going to Wings. I mean, he thrived on it, and that's why he was always so excited to get all of us together to do it, just to sit around, and it wasn't just having wings and drinking kilt lifters. It was the fellowship and the friendship of all of us, telling stories, catching up on what's going on. And there was always a joke, which we heard a little bit about Steve and being hard of hearing, and how I can't hear you, and when that was said earlier, that resonated with me. And then as Jeff said, then someone would say real loudly, well, Steve, we were talking about blah, 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 blah. And usually it was Joe. And Joe would do it like, and Steve, we were talking about the bear that we saw. It never fails. Every week. There we go. It would be that way. And, Steve always, as we've heard so many times, that he's always the first to help out. And he was the heart of our annual road cleanup, as Christy said earlier today. And, he never missed one. He was always there. He was always the first one there with his green machine. And except last week, that was the first one. That was the first one that Steve missed. And he was missed very much that day. So some of the things that we've heard about Steve helping us, the fellowship of the lift. And I have a story about the fellowship of the lift with Steve. So we were talking about that we had just had a big wind and rainstorm, and some of the siding blew up in the upper story of our house. And Steve, I was just talking about it, and Steve said, well, I'll come over with my lift. And so Gretchen and I live at the opposite end of the neighborhood, and it's uphill most of the way. And so for Steve to offer to do that was no small task, because the lift goes about 2 miles an hour. Half a mile an hour. I was thinking downhill, 2 miles an hour. So he's, 45 minutes later, he gets to our house, which is, only 3/4 of a mile away. And then because of the rain, when he goes down into our property, it was really slippery, muddy and slippery. The grass was all wet, and he's slipping and sliding, trying to maneuver the lift to get, right up there for the second story of the house. So he gets it in position, and then I load up the basket with a compressor and a nail gun and a bunch of other tools to nail this siding back up on the house. So there's barely enough room for us to be in the lift. So we were like this in the lift, going up. And I kept going, Steve, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And he was really patient. He would just do exactly what I was asking him to do. And then when we were all done, he tries to back up, to go back up our driveway to the road. And the wheels just started spinning. He went nowhere in the lift. But he didn't get upset, so I went and got my 4Runner, hooked it up with a chain. I tried to tow him out. The 4Runner tires were spinning, the lift tires were spinning, nothing at all happened. And then finally I went and got Brian Childers, to come over with his truck to help. And about an hour later, Brian was able to pull the lift up on the road. And that whole time, Steve didn't act frustrated. He wasn't concerned. He never, raised his voice. He was just like, okay, yeah, great, thanks, guys, And so I said, well, Steve, I'd like to pay you for the use of your equipment and all your time. And he goes, oh, no. As we've heard before, he would not accept any payment. He just said, bring some gas over for the lift sometime. And that was Steve. And then we talked about the fellowship of the walking. I walked with Steve once. I couldn't keep up with him. That was it. I don't even think I made it the whole way. He picked me up at my house over there. I went around, and we came back to where my property was. I said, "Oh, Steve, I've had enough." And that was it. That was the one time I walked with Steve. And then we talked about how, I think Christy was talking about with the water, how she called Steve. There was one time we went on vacation, and, I woke up the first morning, we were gone, and I'm always thinking about this, I didn't lock the garage door. And I knew Steve was going out for a walk at 8 in the morning, so texted Steve about 7:30, "Hey, on your walk, can you check our garage door, make sure it's locked for us?" And he checked it, and of course it was locked. But, just having that comfort to know that if I needed something, I could call Steve, because he was always the first to help us, and that's the common thread of all this, that how much he gave of himself. Another time that he helped us out, our snowmobile wasn't working. It was running really rough, and I couldn't figure it out. And I took talking to Steve about it. He goes, "Oh, I'm a mechanic in Mesa. I take my snowmobile too." And so he came by the house, picked up the snowmobile, loaded it on his trailer, took it down to Mesa, made sure that the mechanic fixed it properly, and then brought it all back to us. And of course, I paid for the bill for the snowmobile. But then I told Steve, again, "I'd like to pay you for your gas." And he goes, No, I'm happy to do it. I'm just happy to do it." And it's, just so many memories of that, of Steve just helping us out and giving of himself. And he was also very proud of his service as a police officer in Illinois and Joliet, and also in Mesa, and of his military service too. And I remember one time, just a little, he would talk about it often, but when he was in the military, when we first enlisted, they loaded everyone up on the plane, and they thought they were going to Vietnam. But hours later, in the aircraft, and they landed, and they got out, and they were in Korea. And Steve said, there I was standing there in my jungle fatigues in the ice and snow of Korea. I just thought that was just incredible. But he went through some hard times in his military and his law enforcement service, but he was very, very proud of that, and I think with good reason to be. And so Steve was just a great friend, a great neighbor, and he'll be missed every day by all of us, but we're going to keep his traditions alive. And I know on Thursday, when we go to Wings, I'm going to hear his voice saying, "How you doing?" Because that's Steve. So I just want to do just a quick toast with Kilt Lifter. Here's to Steve.
To Steve. Cheers.
Thank you, Principal.
Thank you, Matt. Well said. Well said.
I don't want to interrupt it, so.
Rebecca, would you like to say a few words? Come on up. Welcome.
How's this for volume? Okay? Just a very few words. I feel like we had a tiny fellowship of the hydraulic wood splitter when Eric and I first came in 2008, which is, if my math is right, 17 years now. Am I right?
Yeah.
It's a learning curve with the whole off-the-grid house, and we got a chainsaw and cut rounds, and then there was the whole solar thing, but I'm like, ooh, I love that we have all these rounds of wood. And then I discovered quickly how it's not like in the books where you just go whoop with a wedge with an axe and it splits apart. No, I was like, there's got to be another way. So I was talking to Steve. He says, "Oh, have you tried a hydraulic splitter?" And I said, "No, I haven't." He says, "I will bring you one." I was like, yes. So not only was the hydraulic splitter such a wonderful gesture of welcoming and actual practical help. It was also super awesome to just see it work. Like very satisfying, and they would just fall on the side, and he showed me how to do it and helped me do it. And then when it was done, he brought it back like the lift. And I don't know, it was just so great, Margie. And he made us feel so like, even if we couldn't do something here, that he would help take care of us. And then afterwards, he would always take photos because our house is right there, and he would send us pictures of our house with various states of snow and whatnot, and accompanied with no words, just like, here's a beautiful picture of your house from my house. And it was so nice. I feel sad that.
I remember that.
Yeah. It was so nice.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right, next up is Bruce. Come on up, Bruce.
He's an outsider. What does he know?
I'm going to get to that right now. I'm Bruce. This is my wife, Judy. And as they've already stated, we're the outsiders. And for those that don't realize that, we live out in Kendrick Park. So we're about 3.5 to 4 miles away. And
what's the name of your place, Bruce?
No Water Ranch. Blame my wife for that one. Anyway, the first time I met Steve, we were in at getting water. And we pulled up for water, and there was this vehicle in front with a trailer, and on the back it said solar. And I thought, that's the guy that put our solar in.
That's when you met him?
Yes.
Wow. Thank you for that.
And anyway, I went out, I talked to him and found out that he worked with Keith. And we talked and for a while, and I mentioned military, and he was in the military. So we had this connection there. But the thing that was probably the best, and it's all because of Steve and Margie, is we are part of this group. And we're the outsiders. We're the outsiders. We're part of the Wings. I gotta say Wings. Wings is just outstanding.
You're wing nuts.
Yes. But because of Steve, we are part of this outstanding group here. And I can't thank him and Margie for being part of this and allowing us to be part of this group. But that's how I met Steve. Yep. That's it.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce often shares text messages with the rest of us when he sees a beautiful storm over White Horse Park, raining.
Because it doesn't rain at our
It doesn't rain at our. Did it rain at your place today? Did it rain at your house today?
We watch it rain over here all the time.
We'll sit on the front porch and watch it rain.
Over here.
Did it rain at your house today?
Yeah. Today was
Okay,
unusual.
so you're a happy man.
Steve
This is the
probably
one
had
time.
something to do with that.
Okay. All right. Steve blessed you today. So as we're getting through the sharing of stories, we have a few more things that Margie would like to do today. So if you want to speak, just think about it real quick. But out here by the pine tree, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to have a chance to say goodbye to Steve's ashes. So those who were at the other memorial are interred with full military honors, which was a beautiful ceremony. And this is going to be more of the extended family version so that Steve will always be here with us. And we know that Steve is looking over us. So Margie has offered that if people during the burial of the ashes want to have a moment to say goodbye and touch the ashes before Margie inters them, you're going to have that opportunity. So think about that. And then also, after we will wrap up with a prayer after that, and then Margie's gonna put on the dog. Is that the right word? We're gonna have dinner. No, hair of the dog is a whole different thing. That's not what we're doing. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. Okay, before we do those three things, anyone that I've forgotten that would like to add a story and share tonight?
Brent, I'll say something real quick.
All right, come on up.
You're in trouble now.
I'm like Christy. I'm a newcomer to the neighborhood. We've only been coming up here for a few years, but I have to say that the very first time I came up, Steve was the one that helped me with all of my solar problems. So he was very, very helpful. He came up and looked at what I had at the cabin and pretty much told me that needs to go away, and designed a whole new system, got me hooked up with Keith, and we put that in. I did walk with Steve a few times, not with him, kind of more behind him. Heidi helped out a lot because she left great big paw prints that I could follow around the circle so I didn't get lost. He was a good friend. He would come up to my house and cut firewood and visit. Margie would ban him from my house occasionally for coming up like too long. But no, he will be greatly missed. Heidi will be greatly missed also. So, thank you.
Thank you. OA, anybody else that would like to share a memory or a story, or we've given everybody good opportunity?
You okay? Everybody good?
Would you like to share?
Yeah.
Come on up. You're among friends.
I'm Sullivan. I'm Steve's granddaughter, and he was the best grandpa to me. Like, I loved him a lot, and one thing he always did with me is, like, me and him would be, like, sitting next to each other. I don't know what we'd be doing, but he just randomly, like, start tickling that, like, one spot, like, right above the knee. And he would also always do the Donald Duck stuff. And yeah, those are some good memories with him. And there's a lot, and there's probably not enough time to share them all. So yeah.
And look at all the stuff he built out here for you to enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
That wasn't an accident. Okay. I don't see any hands. Margie, shall we
Yeah, we're gonna do
inter
it.
the ashes?
Yeah.
Say goodbye another time?
Give me 1 minute to go inside the house, and I'll be right back out.
The stories have made my heart feel full, and I appreciate every single one of you. I would like to pass this around. This is an urn of Steve's ashes. I also put a little post-it note in there. On the day of his funeral, I said a prayer. And my prayer, I can't remember it exactly right now, but my prayer said, "Dear God, please embrace Steve into your loving arms and bring him into heaven so that we may meet and give him peace so that we may meet in the future for everlasting eternity. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen." So the post-it note is actually in here. And I would like to pass this little urn that contains Steve's remains. And if you want to say a little prayer, that'd be great. If you just want to acknowledge his beautiful life, that's also great. So, Reagan, please please pass it around and give everyone an opportunity to say goodbye. And as you're doing that, I'm going to say that this deck has been our lifeline every summer, that we sat here every evening that we could, and we looked at Mount Humphreys, the tallest peak in Arizona, as a very, very special place here in White Horse Park. And we loved everyone that was our neighbor, was our friend. It was amazing. It's been amazing. It'll be amazing for me in the future, but for Steve it has ended. So, I just want to say that I will be burying his urn at the base of this white pine. When we first started envisioning our cabin, it was, where do we put it? So we put it at the road so we can see the mountain. And then eventually it turned out, no, let's just punch through this area here, remove the trees that are in the view, and put the cabin here. So back then there were 2 humongous pine trees, ponderosa pines, here and here. So they had to come down. And so I asked the guys that we hired to cut them down. They were very large pine trees. And I said, why don't you cut them down to like 2 feet above the ground? I'd like to put a bench there. And so we can sit here and watch the sunsets here at Mount Humphreys. So they knocked down the 2 trees, and this white pine was growing right next to the pine that was removed, and it was less than 2 feet tall. And over time, the deck was built, and my vision of a bench sitting right there was gone, because we didn't need it. We had this beautiful deck that we can sit here and look at the mountain. And as the years went by, we watched the mountain and we watched the white pine tree grow. So that's the one that has a lot of meaning for us right now. And we looked at it, and every year it got a little bigger, and it was just our connection between the cabin and the mountain. So I am going to place I'm going to place the cremains of Steve at the base of that tree. It's in a bamboo urn. Where is it right now? Okay, great. It will, what's the word? Decompose? Okay. Yeah. Decompose in the dirt at the base of this tree, and you will become part of this beautiful, beautiful place we call home, this beautiful place we call community, this beautiful place we call White Horse Park. So our plan was it to be multiple years in the future. Thank you, Sullivan. But it is now. So I will be placing that at the base of the tree so I can watch it forever, as long as I'm here. Watch it grow, watch that tree grow, and remember Steve being part of it, all of it. Someday, my remains will also be interred with Steve's in Mesa in the Wall of Peace. And someday I hope that my family will put me in the exact same spot as where Steve is going to be interned at the base of that beautiful tree. Thank you, everyone. We're going to have dinner after this, so please indulge me as I bury Steve's remains at the base of that tree. So, where is he now? Okay. Nancy, can you pass it to Brian? Nancy, pass the urn to Brian. Thank you. Okay. Say a small prayer. Say something as it moves through all of you who loved him so much. And wing night was definitely his passion. Wings are everything. He loved them so much. I did not ground him. That may have been
too often.
May have been an evil little white lie. I don't know, but we had a perfect marriage. We loved each other so much. More than
Steve, I think you finally slowed down a little.
More than most people in the world can say. We were within 6 months of our 50th anniversary. All told, it was probably 52 years that we have known each other and loved each other from our first date. Our first date was May 18th, 1973. Let me share a quick dream I had, which is very profound. Since Steve's passing, I have not dreamed I have not dreamed at all about him, but I did have one very profound dream that I woke up and was able to relive it to every detail. I immediately got up and started writing it down. It was just that real to me. It was so profound. It's in my phone. I wish I could review it real quick, but let me just tell you that the dream was about, I was having trouble studying for a final exam. I have a master's degree. I mean, I don't have trouble studying. I've never missed a class in my life, but apparently I never went to any classes that prepared me for this final exam. So I was very concerned that I didn't know what to study. And then a person from my work, he was kind of like called my work husband. We work together constantly. were great friends, and Steve and Bill and I would go out to lunch all the time. We were just great pals. And he said, remember 5-18- something. I couldn't see what that something was. And it turns out that 5/18/1973 is the anniversary of our first date. And he said, the answers are in the book. And I said, and I was confused. I didn't know what book he was talking about. How do I study for this final exam? I was confused. I just didn't know what that answer was. And then it occurs to me as I'm pondering it that the book is the book of our lives. It started on 5/18/1973, and it hasn't finished yet. But I have to study the book. And the book will continue until I'm no longer here, and that I am with my beloved Steve in heaven, that we have life eternal. I just wanted to share with you that dream. And as I look at all of you here, being a widow is devastating. And I see all of your happy marriages in front of me. I know that, unfortunately, one day, one of you will not be here, and that you will be in the exact same position that I am right now. So, love the person that you're with. Tell them every day how much you love them and how much they mean to you. And it will make the road that I'm currently traveling a little easier. So thank you for being here. I'm going to go to that little pine tree over there, and I'm going to inter Steve's ashes. And then Brent will give us a closing prayer. And then we're going to have dinner in, I don't know, outside, inside. We'll figure that out as we go. And I just thank all of you for being the amazing people that you are and sharing those beautiful stories. I needed to hear those stories. I don't want his memory to fade because I need to hear it all the time. Sullivan, I'm sorry that this is so hard, but Grandma has to do it. So, okay, I am ready. So, all right, so let's just, if anybody would like to join me down there, you may. I understand it's very muddy because of our great rain we had today, but I can go there. Maybe if my family would like to join me, I'd appreciate it. So, give us a few minutes to do what needs to be done and inter Steve in a place that he loves so much. Thank you.
Dear God, please bless us all here today as we celebrate Steve in his 75 years of life here on this earth. And grant him peace in heaven, in God's heaven, and that our love for him is amazing, and that we truly loved and adored Steve. So, thank you, God, for bringing Steve into my life. He has been the best thing, the best person, the most compassionate person I've ever known in my whole life. Thank you, God. I appreciate it so much. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Sullivan, I love you. Thank you, everyone. Let's continue this celebration and have a great dinner. Give us a few minutes to get ready. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you for